Willkommen. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is React with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we have a very fun video planned. Check this out. We're back with my boy Nauf and we're checking out his video called 8 Underrated Things About Life in Deutschland. Ooh, this should be interesting. Let's see some of the underrated things about life in Germany. Los geht's.
Okay, everyone knows about the things Germany is famous for being good at. Germany has great beer. Germany has great cars. Germany is really good at soccer, or they used to be. But in this video, I am going to talk about things about life in Germany that I think are underappreciated or underrated. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm excited. Walking through history.
Vastness and rich history that is just commonplace in day-to-day life here in Germany. Right now I'm sitting on the steps of a church that's from the 12th century. And I feel like people that are from Germany really sort of take this for granted. And even I started to take it for granted after living here for a few years. I remember when I first came here, I was just awestruck by how old some of these buildings were and how much history there was on the things that I was walking around on.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite things about Germany because I love history. I love learning about history, especially like the Ritter type of stuff, the olden castle days, like the knights and the kings and, you know, like the olden days. And we obviously don't have any of that stuff in America. We don't have any castles or anything even remotely like that. So, you know, being in Germany and just being able to go to castles and just see all this cool history and stuff. Oh man, that was awesome. Love that.
But you do get used to it. And it's only once I started to read some
old cathedrals
books like The Pillars of the Earth, which is about the making of a cathedral, that I really started to reappreciate just how crazy it is that there's this insane history all around us. This behind me here, the Kloster Kronberg, which is a former monastery, originated in 1078.
See, that's awesome.
It's over 1,000 years ago. So, and I feel like it's kind of taken for granted for and pretty underrated here in Germany.
A nice starter home, said no German ever.
This culture of when people buy a home, they buy a home for life. In the United States, I feel like there's this culture and attitude of people buying starter homes, which is a home that you're buying that you know you're not going to live in forever, that maybe you're actually going to only live in it for a couple of years. Whereas I feel like the idea of a starter home doesn't really...
Yeah, in America, you buy your starter home. It's small, affordable, or more affordable, and you start your family there or whatever, and then you sell it for hopefully more money than what you bought it for, and then we use that money to get a bigger home with a little bit more space, and then you can fill it out with all of your kids and whatever else. That's the idea, at least, on paper.
Generally speaking, exist in Germany. When people are building or buying a house, they have the attitude and mindset that this is going to be my home for life.
That's cool.
And I feel like the American mentality when it comes to home ownership is very stressful, and it kind of is a nice metaphor for...
The average American moves 11.4 times in their lifetime, one of the highest averages in the world. 11.4 times! Dang. I think I have probably moved 11.4 times since, like, the past 3 years.
American culture as a whole, it's always about, okay, leveling up, okay, what's next, leveling up, which I think is a very American mentality in a lot of aspects of life. So I feel like this mentality of this house being a home for life gives a person a sense of peace and security.
Okay, now I need to count. Let me think. I'm going to think about how many times I have moved cities at least like an hour away since graduating university. So let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I've moved like 7 times so far since graduating from university. And that doesn't even count small moves like from one apartment to the other on the other side of town or the other side of a city or something like that. That's like major moves from like an hour or so away, back and forth to different places and all that. So that is not a small amount. All right, anyways.
The American mentality when it comes to homes often is sort of a stressful one and one of anxiety and always leveling up and not settling and finding peace. So I think this idea and mentality that Germans have when it comes to homes is very underrated.
Okay, I like that one. Do you want to go to France this
Behind
weekend?
China, Russia, and
true.
Brazil, Germany has the most neighboring countries bordering it in the world. And this is not something to be overlooked. United States, we border Mexico and Canada. We do not have such close and easy access to other cultures. The fact that people grew up in Germany, in the heart of Europe, with access to 9 different countries on its border is really an incredible thing.
Look at this guy walking by.
Drive 2 hours and be in France, drive 1 hour and be in Switzerland, or go east and drive and be in the Czech Republic, or up north to Denmark. It's a really valuable thing.
True.
I was just talking to a former teammate of mine on the Unicorns, and he talked about how, the first time he left Germany to go to a different country was probably before he could walk, and he'd been going to different countries in Europe that spoke different languages all growing up. The first time I went to a country that spoke a different language than mine was when I came to Germany in 2016.
Sheesh.
This is totally underappreciated by people that live in Germany and grew up with
That's
this.
a good one. That's
Very
a good
underrated.
one. Germans are not German.
The diversity of both the humans and the geography in Germany. This is a very underrated aspect of the country. When I first came to Germany, I just thought, oh yeah, German people, they're all the same. They're the same in the north, they're the same in the south. Germans are Germans are Germans.
Ah, I see.
Now after living here, I am shocked that this is one country. Look at the map of the Holy Roman Empire.
Whoa.
That is the diversity of different people and culture in Germany. It is still very alive and present today. I would honestly say that people in the southern Bavaria are much more culturally close to Austrians than they are culturally close to people up way far in the north of Germany. And I'd say these northern Germans that are way up near the border of Denmark, they're closer to Danes than they are to Bavarians in terms of culture. And so I feel like just this line that's drawn around Germany as the border for Germans is almost arbitrary, and there's just a wild range of diversity when it comes to people and cultures in Germany. Germans are very different across the country. And in going with that, there's also a diversity of landscape and geography that I think doesn't get talked about when people speak of Germany. Everyone just thinks, Germany look the same all over. No, you go to southern Germany, you've got the mountains, the Alps, you go to the southwest, you've got the Black Forest, you go up to the north, you've got the ocean, you've got different beaches, you've got like the islands, Silt, and then you go over into the east and you've got what they called Saxon Switzerland, which is basically this different type of landscape geography, rocky climbing areas. In the west again to the Rhine River Valley. I mean, there's just different types of landscapes and geography all over Germany, and it's got a wide array of landscapes that I think is very underrated.
That's a good one. The power of the Fuß.
How walkable Germany is, and not just small towns here like Schwäbisch Hall, but also even some of the bigger cities, like even Stuttgart is so much more walkable than cities in the United States. And this is just a natural thing for people that grew up in Germany. Of course, the city is made for people, human beings, to walk around, not for cars. But I feel like it's a very underrated thing because it's just so normal. So how walkable cities, towns, and villages are.
That's a very good one. I like that one. Let's all get out of the way.
So in Germany, when there is standstill traffic on the Autobahn, all the cars move off to the sides.
This is a good one too.
An alleyway.
This is a good list. I like this list. This is a good list.
In the middle of the road. This is known as a Rettungsgasse, which literally translates to rescue alley. And it's so that emergency vehicles can still get through easily and quickly.
Yeah, we're supposed to do that in America, but we just
don't. Now, of course, in these situations when there's such bad traffic, nobody's in a good mood. Nobody's happy about that. But everybody knows and buys into this idea like, hey, I'm annoyed. It's horrible traffic, but I'm going to move off to the side and we're going to create this lane in the middle for emergency vehicles to take care of people if that needs to happen. We're not taught to do this in the United States. And
yes,
I feel
we
like
are.
It's underrated that people
We're taught to do it, but no one does it.
Fail in Germany.
Kids don't need leashes.
Yesterday I was on a walk and
Dude, what is up with parents putting their kids on leashes in America? I don't understand that. I think if your dog is better behaved than your child, then you got your priorities not in the right place.
Saw a group of 4 really young children. They were maybe 3-4 years old. and they were out riding little bikes and walking with each other. And I was waiting for a parent to come around the corner, because obviously kids this young are not out riding their bikes and walking on their own.
Not even
and
literal
I waited,
leashes.
And then I realized
Gotcha.
there was no parent or adult with them. These are just 4 young little kids out enjoying the town, and it is totally normal and totally safe. This is something that you just really would not see in the United States.
Yeah, that's true.
And to my American brain, it is still very shocking to just see young children roaming about on their own.
Yeah, little kids always have parents with them, for
aspect
sure.
of life in Germany, that this is just able to be a totally
at least
normal
close
and
by
safe thing.
Beer before steer. Huh?
In Germany, you cannot drive a car until you're 18, but you can drink beer at 16. In the United States, you can drive a car at 16, but you can't drink beer until you're 21. It's very underrated that Germans do it this way. My dad worked in insurance for a long time, and so he knew the statistics about young drivers getting in accidents. All of us young kids getting our driver's license at 16, he knew there was a very high percentage chance that we would get in an accident in the first 12 months of having a driver's license at this age. And lo and behold, all 6 Alfieri kids got in some sort of accident at different levels within the first year of having the driver's license.
Oh my God. Dude, the driving genetics in this family. Oh man.
Now, I don't know the German statistics off the top of my head, but I'm assuming that a smaller percentage of drivers in Germany get in an accident in the first year of having your license, just simply because your brain is slightly more developed at 18 than it is at 16.
And the driving test is a lot harder in Germany.
Dangerous and such a greater responsibility than having a beer. And I feel like in the United States, we have it a little bit mixed up. We think driving a car is safer than drinking a beer. So I'm really a fan of how Germany handles these 2 topics at these different ages. And I think it's very underrated aspect of life in Germany.
The power of good pavement. Oh, this is a very good one. As I am currently doing a year-long road trip all over America, seeing as much of America as possible by driving everywhere, living in a van, I can confirm that I miss the German roads. I know the German roads are not perfect. I know that a lot of Germans complain about, well, everything. That's kind of a stereotype that Germans complain about everything. But I know Germans complain about roads sometimes. But dude, American roads, oh my God, it is crazy. American roads are terrible.
German infrastructure. Germany is commonly ranked as the #1 country in the world when it comes to infrastructure. I'll just tell you, driving on the roads in Germany is a very pleasurable experience. Driving on the Autobahn is great. Hardly ever any potholes. The roads are in pristine conditions. And I actually really noticed this even more when I was driving out to Cody and Speedy's house the other day. They live outside of Schwäbisch Hall, and you have to drive on a bunch of back roads to get there. Not prime roads that are, taken care of all the time and have construction all the time. And even these back...
Oh, dude, this, you could see there's been a lot of work on this road. Probably a little bit bumpy and stuff. This would be like a top-of-the-line, Class A, premium road in America. And in Germany, it's like, this is a terrible road, basically.
Roads are just pristine. I will say, German construction seems to take quite a long time. There are a few construction projects here around Schwäbisch Hall that they've been working on my entire time here and seem to have made little to no progress. However, when they do finish projects in Germany, they do it well and they do it to last. I think if you want to really appreciate German roads and German infrastructure, leave the country and go drive on some other ones. I feel like if you grew up in this system, this is just what you know and this is the standard. So even though it is literally ranked #1 in infrastructure, I feel like people do not really appreciate that. It's undervalued, and therefore it makes my list of underrated things about life in Germany.
Nice.
All right, guys, that is all for today.
All right, dude. A very good list. A perfect list, 10 out of 10, no notes. But actually, though, usually when I watch videos like this, I have something where I'm like, I don't really agree with this, or maybe I don't fully agree with that. But this was a great list, I'm not going to lie. Nauf, great job, great list. I agree with everything that you said. And thank you for the video. But that's all the time that I have for today. So I'm curious what you guys, the experts, have to say about it. What do you think of the list? Do you think that you guys take any of this stuff for granted? Do you not even notice it anymore? Do you not really appreciate it because you're just used to it? Let me know your thoughts. Leave your mustard down in the comment section below. That's all the time that I have for today, though. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.